Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we are going to discuss why a high school is banning those super cool, trendy water bottles, a physician who left in the middle of surgery to have sex with a nurse, a couple from Queens who were violently murdered, a drunk driver that had their drunk driving device removed from their vehicle months before they killed someone in a drunk driving accident, people who are afraid of fruit, yes, you heard me, fruit, and a dad who died at his son's funeral. All that and more on today's episode. Why is this high school banning the super cool Stanley Cups?
So they're trying to say because it's holding up security screening and because anybody could put anything in it, of course they have to confirm the contents of the cup. I would more so think it was because they could be used as weapons. They're heavy.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking at first too. We've had a couple stories. Didn't we have a story of a kid that killed his grandmom or something with a Stanley Cup months back? And they're heavy and they can cause blunt trauma. So that's why you would think every single kid has one of them. But they're saying, and this makes sense actually, because do you remember that time we had the story about the Stanley Cups they're covered in lead and then they have this other covering over them? Remember a mom did testing on it and said that there was lead in it?
Yeah.
So if a portion of the cup is lined in lead, that could affect the x-rays of going through security to get into a school, right? And in theory, I guess you could put a knife in the cup. You could put a weapon in the cup. Well, and maybe that's why they're not going to open them and check them for vodka because that could be in a clear bottle too. It's not that. They're just trying to check for an actual weapon being smuggled in.
I guess the first comment I have to make is it's just sad we live in a society where our high schoolers have to get screened going into school, but that's obvious now. And then I thought this too, because we were shocked at the airport even last week that people had Stanleys, but I guess you could bring them through TSA if they're empty. But I don't know. I think they could be seriously hurtful. I actually was listening to another show a couple weeks ago, and a listener wrote in and said that they felt bad because their Stanley fell from the overhead compartment and hit somebody in the head below, and that could hurt really bad.
Yeah, it could, but that's not even why they're removing them in this case. But let me read you some of the quotes because this is actually more interesting. All right, so all the kids are in an uproar and they're having let's sign a petition to fight this, blah blah blah. Quote, the students believe this policy places an unneeded burden on a student seeking to meet their daily hydration needs.
I'm shut the hell up. I didn't even drink water the whole time I was in school.
I didn't drink water until I was 20 years old. Really.
Yeah, nobody that grew up before 2000 drank water during the day at school.
When I was a little kid, bottled water didn't even exist. Well, I'm serious, at least where I lived. So, really, I always tell this story. My mom would give me a Capri Sun in my lunchbox, and that was it for the entire day. One Capri Sun, going outside for recess, running around, and then you had to drink off the nasty water fountain, right? That every
Those
other
things
kid,
are gross.
They are gross, but you would be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, because you were dying. So, and you can... I do understand from the parents' perspective because for me, I've invested probably hundreds of dollars in these stupid water bottles.
Well,
between
that's your
the Stanley
fault
and
for
the
falling into trends because you could get
It's
one
not
of
my
those
fault. It's
you
not
could
my
get one of
fault.
those cups that's not one of those brands for $10 at Target.
The kids won't carry it. They won't carry it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's your problem for falling into trends.
It's my problem, but it's not my fault because I think that they're dumb. They weigh half of the child's weight. I just think they're dumb all around, right? But as a parent that's invested, because now Stanleys aren't cool anymore. Now it's a Wallace or whatever. Every year there's a trending thing. So now I got a cabinet full of these things, and now the school's telling me they can't use them. You have to get them a new thing. But then the one that they want them to get is plastic. I don't really want my kid drinking out of plastic all the time like that.
I've been seeing a lot of glass cups like that. Like, are you allowed to have
That's
the
not going to
glass?
be practical either with a child.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if it has to be clear, that's at least an option.
Just like, I don't know. So the parents are all like in a tizzy and everybody's in a tizzy. And then one of the moms was saying, oh, this was a good one. Nobody's going to want to drink warm water. Like, I guess the clear ones aren't going to keep the water warm.
Well, I actually don't like cold water. I find that drinking lukewarm water is actually better for me and I can get it down.
That's
So,
literally what
wrong.
I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, I never ever drink water from the refrigerator ever. It hurts my teeth or something, and it does, and it is difficult to drink. It's good like if you're like really really thirsty and you're in a situation, it does. Like, let's say you're in Disney World and you want like a drink, like cold water would definitely be better. But like in a normal situation where you're just trying to pound like a couple bottles of water just to like get hydrated, it's easier when it's warm.
I know you didn't watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but there's this episode where like Kim Kardashian drops a diamond earring in the ocean and she's freaking out, and then Courtney's like, "Kim, people are dying," and that's how I feel about the situation. I'm like, okay, listen, it's annoying and an inconvenience, but like your life is not ruined over this. Just go get a freaking
That's
plastic
why I'm
water
just
bottle.
like, oh, we can't have our hydration needs. It's just exactly. You're just like,
That is some
I don't know.
chat
Did you watch the
GPT.
news this week? Like, there's definitely other things going on. Like one crazy story we're going to be talking about, which, you know what? I'll say that when we get to that story. Let's get on to the next one. I saw this on our local news just randomly.
This was on our local news?
Yeah.
All right, so in the UK, a patient was undergoing gallbladder removal surgery, and that's when the anesthesiologist just decided that was the best time to leave the room and go have sex with a nurse in another operating room.
Well, really, I mean, if that's not bad enough, the reason that he did this was because him and his wife had a baby premature and it was stressing him out. And he had to, get some kind of a release to be under that stress.
So not only are you leaving a patient in the middle of surgery, which is so dangerous, but now you're also going to be cheating on your wife and then try to say it was due to your premature baby. Total piece of shit.
He really is a piece of shit on multiple levels. Like, imagine being a mother that gives birth to a premature child and having that uncertainty of like, is the baby going to be okay? Like, that's just stressful enough. And then having your husband cheat on you, which is terrible, and then have it being broadcasted all over the news, and then him blaming it on your sick baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a loser.
Well, I was thinking that too. This must just be so embarrassing for the wife, and hopefully she's like, I think most people I've seen commenting on the story also agree this guy is a loser. So hopefully for her it was a good riddance. At least you revealed yourself now and whatever.
You know what's an interesting topic? You know how when we were at CrimeCon, we were like just looking at all the people and we're like, oh, there's some romantic relationships going on here for sure.
Oh, totally.
Like meetups, hookups, and we, of course, were like super curious about that. Hospitals are the same thing. There's like people always, I don't want to say always, it's not like happy, but there's people that are having sex at the hospital. There's bedrooms in the hospital for the residents and the nurses that if they need to stay over and stuff, like there's places to have sex. I know people that have it's a thing.
I don't think you should. I mean, he was gone for 8 minutes. So like as a regular person, I'm assuming that's a long time. Like you should not be leaving at all unless you're like running to the bathroom real quick, right?
I mean, listen, some surgeries go a long time, 12 hours, like,
yeah,
the surgeon takes a break and they usually have a resident there but like, no, not for this.
No.
The surgeon might take a break to like eat, like you said, eat, pee, go to the bathroom. Sometimes, like, especially if they're sending down a frozen section, that might be a time to be like, okay, like we're waiting for something to come back, we could take a break, but like someone's monitoring the patient and everything like that. But to just go whip one out for 8 minutes, no.
But also because for that surgery, you don't get cut open necessarily, right? They do it through the belly button for gallbladder removal.
Yeah, well, yeah, they could do it laparoscopically, but it also could have been open too. It just depends.
Okay, so like I guess what I'm getting at is like, what about the whole scene makes you like horny at that moment?
It is bizarre.
It's giving amputation porn a little bit.
And what like from a woman's perspective, like going in another room and banging it out for 8 minutes when like, and it's a cheating situation, like, what are you getting out of it?
Because that cheaters are like that. They think it's like so hot, and then they got caught by another coworker,
But like,
of course, too. So that
it's
probably
hot for
added
the
to it.
guy for sure. But like, what's the woman getting out of it?
No, I think the women think it's hot too.
Yeah, like, well, you know, a lot of women think like, oh, he's attracted to me because his wife's so ugly. Like,
yeah, and then it's like they got caught by somebody. That's like a whole other fetish in and of itself. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want this guy operating on me. He wasn't a surgeon. He was an anesthesiologist. You get what I'm saying. He's in charge of an important factor in the surgery. But I guess, like, I don't know. It just bothers me really bad. It happened back in 2023, and he obviously got suspended from work, and now he's trying to go through hearings to get reinstated. And I think you're making questionable choices, so I don't know if you should be
and plus,
working
like,
in there again.
I mean, we never find out about this stuff, but it's just, you know, when you're going to get a colonoscopy and stuff, it's like, do you really ever go on and look up the anesthesiologist that's putting you to sleep? No, nobody does.
I didn't even know who my anesthesiologist was going to be for my surgery until I was, like, there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like, even if they come in the room and they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm the anesthesiologist. Are you going to quick like Google their name and be like, wait, you had sex with somebody during a gallbladder surgery? Like, did you get that out of your system? Or, you know, like,
yeah, and you can't just be like, that guy's not giving it to me. Like, it's not like there's an endless supply of anesthesiologists.
That's actually amazing. If you're just like, I Googled him and like, he's not touching me. That would be amazing.
I wonder what they would do in that situation. This is why they have to suspend people. All right, this one's horrible. In Queens, this guy was going around knocking on doors asking for help because his phone died. So the first house ended up denying him, but the second home, which belonged to this elderly couple, let him in through their backyard, and then hours later they were found dead and their house was set on fire.
Yeah, I saw this story. What day did this happen? Because I feel like it was circulating at the same time as the Charlie Kirk situation.
It was only a couple days ago, yeah, and I feel like it really got overshadowed.
It did get overshadowed, and I don't like I did want to talk about it because I'm like, we should look into that. And when I read about it, I was just like, this is so scary, especially for elderly people that have been getting taken advantage of, like, off the hook. You know what I mean? It's just really crazy. Like, I want to send this story to some of my elderly neighbors and just be like, because there's always people walking up our street, like trying to pretend to sell some shit or actually selling something or whatever.
I can't believe people do that anymore with the way people are like freaking out in general. Wouldn't you just be scared if you were going door to door, you'd get shot by somebody random?
Well, nobody should just be standing there with a gun waiting to shoot someone that comes on their
obviously,
doorstep.
But I'm just saying, like, not in New Jersey necessarily, because that wouldn't happen, but like in other states where they're more open with their gun policy, I don't know, it would just freak me out. The solicitors drive me fucking crazy. They always are knocking on the door. I'll have a sign up that says I'm recording, and they'll just keep knocking on my door, and I'm like, you don't see the giant sign that says I'm in the middle of recording. And then it'll be like, how's your pest control? I see some ants on your porch. And I'm like, yeah, because it's outside and there's ants outside. Thank you for interrupting my entire workday.
Yeah, they are annoying. And we live on a tight street. So it's like, it's awesome because my neighbors and I have like a group chat for our street, our like section of our street. And somebody will be like, solicitor alert. So we all are aware to not answer our door, you know? But so, I mean, this is so scary because people knock at the door like they're delivering the mail or they're doing this or whatever. Like, you don't know like who's coming to your door all the time. I mean, I personally wouldn't answer it, but like that's so scary. So they were like trying to. Why did they let him in the back?
I was kind of unclear about that. I don't know if like it was the design of where the house was. Maybe they had a corner property and they saw him across the street, and that was the way. I really don't know the design and why they let him in the back. But basically, police said that at 10:18 a.m. they see him go in the back door, and then he didn't leave the house until 3:08 p.m. So 5 hours later. The house is set on fire. When they go in the house, they find the older man tied to a pole in the basement with multiple stab wounds, and then the wife was just burned beyond recognition.
Does this guy know these people? Because
he is claiming they molested him when he was a child, but I have seen no further reports on that.
So So this is either true or it's like he's just out of his mind and is just saying that just to act like he had a reason to do this.
I mean, I would go with option B, that he just threw it out there, because after he like robbed them too, so they were able to track him down through New York because he was using their credit cards at various
And
locations to
went
buy
to the
things.
movies. He went to, how do you stab someone to death and set a person on fire and set the house on fire and go to the movies afterwards?
Yeah, I don't know. And then
Is
they
it
ended up
possible though that he knew them, that's why he was getting let in the back? I'm just curious. It's just a
possibly, but older people I think also just want to think the best.
yeah, no,
You know?
I totally think it could be random. It's just if it's random, it's very, very scary. Not
No,
that
definitely.
it's I mean, I don't know. Just like I do want to hear more about this because and honestly, if that's not true and he's putting that out there, like how awful, because these people are like grandparents' age, right? So they have children that are like my age, your age, whatever. Like not only are your parents murdered and robbed, but now there's like a rumor going around that they raped a child. Like it's just terrible.
This episode is brought to you by The Grocery Room.
Guys, our sale is ending this Friday, September 19th for $20 for the whole entire year of gross. And that comes with this Forensic Friday that we're going to have this week. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this week, but last week it was on postmortem organ procurement. So, what happens when, we talk about usually when you think about donating organs, it's a heart or a liver or kidney or something like that. But there's other things that are harvested after you die and what that looks like when we get the bodies for autopsy. So, check that out.
Head over to thegroceryroom.com now to sign up. This one is absolutely unbelievable. This happened in New Jersey. So there's recently a fatal car accident where the driver admitted to drinking 6 to 7 beers before getting behind the wheel, crashing into a pole, and killing his friend. And the catch is he had a previous DUI offense that required that like breathalyzer device to be put in his car, and it had just been removed 3 months before this fatal accident. This person is 21 years old and now has 2 drunk driving incidents and a murder. Like he murdered his friend.
Well, this is the thing. There's a lot of statistics, especially from organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that say when a person gets pulled over for drunk driving, they have some maybe upwards of 75 additional times that they did it before actually getting caught.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is so disturbing. So that's what makes me think that they need to be a little bit more serious when they catch someone. Like they're not catching a woman who had a glass of wine after work with her friends driving home. It's just
No.
not that.
No.
And like this guy was drinking and driving and got that breathalyzer device put onto his car and only had to have it on 3 months. Like what is the point of that? What is that doing?
It's not doing anything, and clearly he didn't learn his lesson. And I'm like, what is going on in this person's life that they have such bad substance abuse issues at such a young age?
Yeah, and I mean, both times that he was caught, well, the first time he was caught drinking and driving, and the second time when he killed someone, he had open containers in his car, which is also just like it's so brazen, like just to drive around with alcohol like that when it's so illegal and just drink while you're literally driving.
Well, it's just like alcoholic behavior.
Yeah.
And clearly, I mean, listen, clearly this person had not been just started drinking when they're 21 like you're supposed to. I'd argue he probably started in his like early teens and it escalated to this point, because I can't imagine somebody having such severe alcohol abuse issues in only a year's time.
What would be the negative, honestly? Because if you so many times that we hear about people who kill people in drinking and driving accidents, they've had previous offenses. If someone got this once, what would be the problem with just saying like you're having this thing on your car for years?
I don't, and I thought the standard was year. I thought it was at least a year you had to have it on your car, not only a couple of months.
I mean, because really, if you had it on someone's car for years, it would be a tremendous inconvenience to a person if they're not able to start their car. So this is another question I have too. When you do that breathalyzer, I know that it's highly sensitive and you're not supposed to drink any alcohol because it could give a false reading and not start the car. So you're really just not supposed to drink, which is not a bad thing, right? Like I guess you could say it's trying to take away a person's rights, but it's not. You just can't drink and drive. That should just be a rule anyway.
Yes.
But when, let's say that guy had it and he went to the bar and he went in his car and blew in it and it said, okay, we're not starting this car. Does it keep a report of that and tell people that he was trying to drive and couldn't drive because he was too drunk? Or does it just not start the car and like nobody's monitoring that thing?
That's interesting. I would say the more modern ones probably have some recording, like some data recording, don't you think?
Maybe.
And do you get penalized if you do try to get in there?
Yeah, because think about that. Like if you're hanging out with a person, because like tends to hang, usually it's not like a sober or a person that doesn't drink with like a complete drunk person, right? So like you would have to find someone to breathe in it to start the car for you that didn't have any alcohol in their system. It would be a terrible inconvenience if you actually drank a lot, like to be able to bypass it. And for years that might take a toll to get a person to drink less, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the psychology is behind it or anything, but like now the guy that he killed wasn't wearing a seatbelt and was ejected, which I don't understand why people get in the car and don't put the seatbelt on, but that's whatever people want to do.
But he might have been drunk too. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they didn't release that information.
But it's just like, yeah, like you're 21 years old and it's just like, so now you're in trouble. But like, it's the same thing with Jake Harrow killing the baby, and like, it's just like, when is it that the judges, it's their responsibility too? Like, you're handing out these like candy sentences and like people are reoffending all the time.
This is what bothers me too. So they're saying people are submitting letters vouching for his character and trying to get him released to a substance abuse program. Like, okay, so he'll get sober and then just get drunk and do it again. He can get substance abuse help in prison because he murdered somebody. So how about that? Because he didn't just drunk drive and got caught, he killed somebody because he was drunk driving, and it wasn't the first offense. It's not like he was out and made a bad call and this was a true accident and it happened. He had previous offenses. He shouldn't have been allowed to drive this time, and he did, and now somebody is dead.
Yeah, and I feel like even the first time he was caught, he had like empty beer bottles and whiskey bottles, and it just seems like he definitely seems like he's got some kind of a problem, because that's not how.
Yeah, we're not talking like somebody was at the bar, had 4 beers, made a bad judgment call, and got in the car. Like, this guy is seriously an alcoholic.
Yeah. It's just really upsetting to hear this, because so like we've talked about this a million times. The drunk driver doesn't ever seem to be the one that dies. It's always an innocent victim.
Exactly. All right, this woman is going viral on TikTok after posting videos of her trying new fruits in which she claims is exposure therapy for her fruit phobia.
This is like one of those cases where you're like, oh, learn something new every day. Never heard of this. Fructophobia, it's called. Fructophobia. Fear of fruit. And there's also, like, people could have a fear of vegetables too. And I think from a psychological standpoint, it's like, it's kind of cool actually how you could somehow just fixate on the most random benign object and be scared to death of it. I'm like that with E.T., for example. Like, a lot of people, like, there's something about it that scares the shit out of me. Like, if I see like thank God we're not in the 80s and there's not that many like toys or like t-shirts with the thing on it, but when I see it, it's like triggering to me. Like, it makes me have a gross feeling inside.
Well, I was gonna say, we've covered other stories where like these people are on TikTok and like this sleepwalking thing, right? Where like we're like, okay, that could be real, or that girl could be faking it. That girl that gags all the time could be real, could be faking it. You could also call bullshit on this girl too. But the way she explains the phobia makes me think it's real, because you have your ET problem and I have obviously a needle phobia. So coming from that place, when she said, quote, It feels like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff and someone's threatening to push me off. I get sweaty, I get super nervous and anxious, and there's this feeling of disgust that just completely grosses me out and makes me freak out. That is exactly how I feel when I'm in the middle of having a freak out over being exposed to a needle. I'm sure you feel that way with ET. Yours is a little more weird. I don't know if there's a term for yours, but I don't think this
Well, I
girl's
also
making it
don't
up.
think that mine is that extreme. I feel like I mentally am strong enough to overcome anything like that, even though it makes me feel uncomfortable. But I definitely I looked this up and this is a thing. And one thing I hadn't even considered was the reason is that people are like scared of ingesting insects by accident or scared of ingesting the seeds and the seeds like growing inside their body and shit. Just like outrageous stuff that like most people eating fruit and vegetables don't even think about. And there was always a thing. Remember, like if you ate watermelons and you swallowed the seeds, a watermelon was going to grow in your belly. It was like a joke when we were a kid. And you're like, no, people actually think that that might happen.
Yeah, and she said she's been like this her entire life. It's not just something that suddenly sprung up. When her mom tried to change her from pureed foods to solids, she just always had an aversion to it, and she just could never do it. And now I guess she wants to try to fix it because she's married and she's thinking about becoming a mother, and she doesn't want to have a panic attack every time she tries to feed her kids like healthy foods. So I kind of
This is
applaud
so
her.
outrageous. No, it's cool. It's cool. And she's surprised that it's getting such attention. She had like 29 million views. And I'm like, no, dude, like this is outrageous. I know this is your everyday life, but like people are like, what the hell? This actually, like My Strange Addiction,
Hmm.
there needs to be a show that's like My Phobia,
Yes, that
right?
is such a good show.
I know, because like this is so interesting and people probably have like really weird shit. Like
Yeah,
I mean there's
absolutely.
ones called like fructophobia because it's for people specific for fruit, but like what's the ET one called? Like what are all weird things that people have that like they're just like no, this is like scary and it throws me over the edge.
I should cut this out so we could make all the money off of this
I know,
idea
right?
instead of somebody else pitching it. But I
We could
100%
be the
agree with you.
host.
That's a perfect idea. Like I'd be interested in doing something like that. She said she's most scared of an orange, which I thought was an interesting thing. But the pineapple video is funny because she's eating it and she looks so scared to put it in her mouth, and then once she does, she admits to her husband that it tastes delicious, but she doesn't like the texture still.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. It's like on the level of My Strange Addiction. I'm telling you, like people are going to be like this is like you think she's your age basically, right? She's around
Yeah.
your age and she's married without kids yet. So she's like in the same exact life situation as you and Ricky. Like just imagine being with your husband at night and like having these conversations if he pulls out like a pineapple and you're like crying in the corner. Like it's great TV.
Yeah, it really is.
And
All
like
right. We're
it's
going to
not
need to
graphic.
pitch this.
I know. We're going to need to pitch this.
Seriously. All right, let's move on to our last story. So, this father of 7 was at one of his son's funerals a couple weeks ago, and in the middle of it had a massive heart attack and died.
Yeah, this is so the dad didn't have any history of heart disease and he was 61, I believe, and the son was 41. So I imagine that losing a child is just like the most heartbreaking thing a person can experience. And indeed, you can die from a broken heart, really. Like that's a medical thing that could happen.
So, I guess the real tragedy behind this story is that when the son was found dead in July, it was on the anniversary of when his twins were stillborn. So, it's 3 generations of death all on the, anniversaries or during the grievance period.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened there. I think the son had a history of drug and alcohol problems. Um, I guess the sister had thought that he had gotten sober, but they didn't really specify what his cause of death was. But at 41 years old, especially with that kind of history, it's possibly has something to do with it. Um, so what happens with this broken heart disease, or it's called Takotsubo arteritis, that's the technical term of it. So normally when you have what you would consider to be a heart attack. That's because of ischemic heart disease, or it means that there's some kind of a block of oxygen getting to your heart muscle. But in this case, and usually it's coronary artery disease. In this case, it could happen when a person doesn't have coronary artery disease because of two different things. Number one, just hormones and adrenaline could be too much release because of a high stress event, such as a close family member, loved one's death. It could also happen like if you get scared to death, kind of. You've seen that this could happen too, that there's this surge release of hormones that could be toxic to the heart muscle, along with something causing the coronary arteries to constrict, almost like not allowing blood flow to get through. The combination of those two, they think anyway, is what causes this phenomenon to happen. But you hear of it sometimes, unfortunately, and so you really can die of a broken heart, and that's likely what happened in this case. It's just so sad to hear, especially for the surviving sister.
God, that is just so terrible.
It really is.
All right, guys. Well, we have a couple events coming up in October. On the 3rd, we have the Wildlife CSI at Lake Tobias Wildlife Park. And then on the 12th, we have the Keeping Hope Alive Annual Golf Classic, where I'm going to be volunteering.
And you have to check out the Mother Knows Death golf cart. That's the
you could drive around in a cute little golf cart. I mean, the event's really awesome. It raises money for couples dealing with IVF, and it's a cool event because you could either golf or you could go to this dinner where there's a raffle with some fun baskets. So always get a prize. I know our family loves a basket situation.
Love a good basket.
It's going to be a good dinner too. That's local to us in New Jersey. And then the next weekend we have Darkside, New Jersey and Edison on the 18th, where we're going to be doing a live show.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun too.
So please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you have a story for us, please leave it at stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
Awesome. See you guys. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.